Well, hello there, my abundant healers. How are you? So today's kind of a hinky day for me. I'm moving. I don't know if I've mentioned that in this group before, but I'm moving, and so my house is like boxes piled up everywhere. And then the landlord decides, hey, can we renovate your bathroom the last week you're there so that it's like ready for the next person to move in? And so I was feeling particularly generous because they're moving me into another one of their apartments pretty quickly. So I was like, sure, you can do that. And so now my apartment's like boxes upon boxes. And now the bathroom and the front door to my apartment's completely sectioned off and they're doing all this construction. So it's been showering and, using the bathroom at the gym this week. So I have this lovely neighbor who offered me to use his fabulous apartment for a quiet space to do my live streams and do a little bit of work while they're working on my bathroom. So I'm super grateful to him for that. So I'm coming at you from a new location today. And I kind of just wanted to pop in here and talk a little bit about kind of balancing what I think of as receptiveness with directedness, particularly when you want to take inspired action steps in scaling your practice. So, to my mind, really manifesting anything in the material world, if you want to manifest anything in the material world, you really have to master a balance between the two, receptiveness and directedness. So receptiveness is really more of a willing to remain open to the idea that you can't possibly know and or control your outcomes. So certainly we start with a vision of what it is that we want it to be, but then we want to add to that and much more, right? Things that I can't even predict might come out of it. You also want to realize that you can't possibly know every conceivable path to where it is you want to end up, right? In fact, I would say it's almost entirely possible that the most direct route is inconceivable to you at any given moment in time. I would suggest that's probably the case, primarily because we can only live from moment to moment. However, the larger part of yourself, and I'm going to refer to this as your inner being or your higher knowing or your spirit, or if you prefer a psychological language, your unconscious self, that those parts of yourself exist with what I call kind of a moon's eye view of you in the context of your life and wherever you may be at any given time, right? So, in this context, receptiveness is really more of a willingness to surrender to that which you could never possibly predict or plan. And with a kind of faith that it will work out for you. And it will, because anything that you experience in your life is just based on the narrative that you are writing around it. Okay. So, for example, meditation, or I should say, this doesn't mean that if you just sit in a room and meditate all day, every day, and don't follow any of the inspirations or wisdoms that are banging on your consciousness, then what you're doing is you're kind of ignoring the messages that are coming through. So you're meditating, but you're not actually receiving, and you're not putting into action the things that you're receiving. Okay. Now, when you meditate and you open up to a state of receptiveness, and that means to listen to those little whispers of inspiration and ideas and dreams and thoughts that come to you in those moments, then that's when you start receiving guided action steps to take. You get a general sense of the direction that you need to go in, right? So that's that balance between receptiveness and directedness. And so once you start taking that first step in that direction, then the plan starts to unfold for you. Each action step, each next action step starts to reveal itself to you as you start to move forward. And so the action may even be writing out a plan, right? But it's making plans with that receptiveness in mind, right? Making plans knowing that the plan could meander and change at any given time and that you can be okay with it because it's just altering your direction, right? So, for example, in my program, The Abundant Healer 90 Days to Scale Your Practice Online, I teach therapists, coaches, and healers the essential structures, right? That basic direction that you need to go in for building out a course curriculum and selling them through what are called sales funnels online. And that's either through group coaching programs or through passive income funnels. Now, within each of those steps that I map out for you, which does work because I've been implementing these for a little over a year and I've started making up to $10,000 per month in online revenue. But within each step that you take there's like 1,000 different directions that any one therapist, coach, or healer could go, from the way they talk about what they do, to the digital programs they decide to use to create the content, to the social media platforms that they decide to focus on in promoting their content, to the colors they might choose for their branding, to the price point that they want to sell their course at, to the way that they design their launch strategy and what are called the touch points through their sales funnels, how they're engaging with and interacting with their soul clients, not to mention the text and the copy and the storytelling that goes on in the emails on the front end and on the back end, to how they might create, a video just like this one, or a post like other posts that I have created in my Facebook group here, to deliver whatever their core message might be, what sometimes I refer to as the brand promise, right? So that's stuff that I can show you examples of. That's stuff that I can model for you, but it's not stuff that I can really teach, because that's stuff that only you and you alone can tap into through your own, what I'll say, connection to source energy, or your own inner being, or your own higher knowing, that connection to source, the unconscious self, okay? That's the stuff that's going to inform what decisions you make in those moments, whatever words you want to use for that, okay? I can teach you tools and techniques on how to tap into that part of yourself and how to approach it through the frame of business, and how to apply it in the direction you want to go in, so that you can make inspired and discerning decisions about your next action steps and calling in those physical abundances you seek. Okay. So just to kind of summarize, you really don't necessarily need a plan starting out. You really only need a sense of direction. And if you can trust that the next steps will reveal themselves to you, and you can kind of be receptive to the idea that there are certain ways of tapping into that part of yourself, so that you can make those decisions within these sort of proven strategies that, for example, in my program, I would teach you, then you start to understand how you can really bring your vision into the concrete world, right? You can start to get those physical manifestations of the things that you want. So I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion on receptiveness versus directedness. And if you are interested in learning more about my program, you can check it out. I'm going to put a caption to it, or a link to it, in the caption of this video. It is rolling enrollment, so you can join at any time. And stay tuned to the feed, because over the next couple of weeks, what I'd like to do is I'd like to be showing individuals and participants in this private Facebook group how we can start to develop your knowledge, your skill sets, and your talents in the direction of building out a course curriculum, so that you understand that you do have something that you can offer, and that you can start calling in those physical abundances that you seek by really, busting through the ceiling of that one-to-one business model that so many therapists, coaches, and healers get capped out in, or trapped in, or burnt out in. So I will catch you in the feed later. And if you have any comments, thoughts, or feelings about what we talked about today, make sure you leave them in the thread below.